Before Tutankhamun's name was ever whispered through the desert winds, Egypt was ruled by a pharaoh who defied the gods. Akhenaten, the heretic king, had abandoned the old pantheon and proclaimed that only one god, Aten, the sun disk, should be worshipped. He moved the capital from Thebes to a new city, Akhetaten, and tore down the temples of Egypt's ancient deities. The people were confused, the priests were furious, and the empire was crumbling under the weight of radical change. Into this world of chaos, Tutankhamun was born. His original name, Tutankhaten, living image of Aten, a child of revolution, destined to bring about restoration. Tutankhamun ascended the throne around 1332 BC at just 8 or 9 years old, a child ruler in a kingdom gasping for stability. Though young, he was not alone. Powerful figures stood behind the throne: I, the wise vizier, and Horemheb, the military commander. These men would guide the young king, shaping policy and power in his name. One of his first acts? Restoring the old religion. Temples of Amun were reopened. Priests returned to power. The old gods, once silenced, were praised again in the streets of Thebes. He changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun, a symbolic break from his father's legacy and a promise to the people. Egypt will return to what it once was. But Tutankhamun's Egypt was fragile. Foreign territories once under Egyptian control were slipping away. Allies in Syria and Canaan sent desperate letters, pleading for help. While there's little evidence the boy king led armies himself, depictions of him as a warrior, on chariots, with bow in hand, suggest a ruler reclaiming strength, even if in image alone. At home, he initiated building projects, or rather, allowed them to flourish again. Temples were restored, monuments erected, his name carved into stone, not for glory, but to show that Egypt was healing. Tutankhamun may not have ruled with an iron fist, but his reign symbolized a return to balance, ma'at as the Egyptians called it, cosmic order restored. Tutankhamun married Ankhesenamun, his half-sister, in keeping with royal tradition meant to preserve the divine bloodline. But theirs was not a joyful union. They had no surviving heirs. 2 mummified fetuses, found in his tomb, are believed to be their stillborn daughters. The boy king suffered from numerous health problems: a clubbed foot, malaria, and possibly a genetic bone disease. Recent CT scans of his mummy reveal a frail child, dependent on walking sticks, many of which were found in his tomb. Behind the golden mask was a young man plagued by pain. And then at just 18 or 19 years old, Tutankhamun died. The cause? Still debated. Some say a broken leg led to a fatal infection. Others believe he was poisoned or suffered a head injury. Whatever the reason, his death was sudden. Egypt was once again without a clear future. Though he is remembered as the boy king, King Tutankhamun ruled during one of the most turbulent periods in ancient Egyptian history. His reign began around 1332 BC, following the death of his father or stepfather, the controversial Pharaoh Akhenaten. Akhenaten had radically transformed Egyptian society by introducing monotheism, worship of a single god, Aten, and suppressing traditional religious practices. This religious upheaval angered the priesthood of Amun and destabilized Egypt. Tutankhamun's early reign was guided by powerful advisors, Grand Vizier I and General Horemheb. Under their direction, the king took steps to restore Egypt's spiritual and political balance. He reinstated the worship of Amun, reopened temples, and moved the capital back to Thebes. He also changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, distancing himself from his father's religious revolution. These moves restored support from both the clergy and the people, reuniting a fragmented kingdom. Beyond religion, his administration sought to restore Egypt's diplomatic power. Letters from vassals in the Amarna archives show that foreign allies were desperate for Egyptian protection. Although there's no record of major military campaigns under his rule, symbols of warfare, chariots, bows, shields, found in his tomb hint at a revival of military pride. At home, scribes and artisans restored defaced monuments. Akhenaten's name was chiseled away, the old gods' names re-inscribed. It was a calculated move to erase the past and reinforce a sense of national identity. His court life was rich in symbolism and tradition. Despite his physical ailments, he was portrayed as strong, regal, and divine. After his sudden death, Tutankhamun was buried hastily in a tomb that may have been meant for someone else, but this unremarkable tomb would become the most famous in history. In 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered it untouched. Over 5,000 artifacts were unearthed: gold statues, alabaster vases, ceremonial weapons, and the iconic golden mask. The boy king, long forgotten by history, became an international sensation. His tomb provided scholars with an unprecedented look at ancient Egyptian burial practices, artistry, and royal life. Tutankhamun's reign may have been short and his rule shaped by others, but his symbolic role in healing Egypt's soul was undeniable. His decisions, or those of his court, restored religious balance, revived cultural traditions, and began the process of national recovery. And in death, his legacy exploded into immortality. Today, his name is known across the globe, not because of conquest or law, but because fate preserved his story in a sealed tomb of gold. He was a boy, a king, a restorer of order, and a legend reborn. This was the life and legacy of Tutankhamun, forever Pharaoh.